Thanks for joining us at this webinar for Studio Survey, the 2.2 release. So we're going to be looking at the new features, those sorts of things. Also, how some of those features can unlock better results for your mining operation throughout the whole cycle, not necessarily just in relation to survey specific tasks. So thank you for joining. My name's Ben Vag. I'm the product manager for Survey. So I deal with the Studio Survey product, primarily focused on survey tasks and tools and those sorts of things, all the way from photogrammetry, drone photos, all the way through to finalizing reports for end of month, both focused in the open pit and underground side of things. A little bit of background from myself. I've been with Datamine for six and a half years now as a product manager. Previous to that, I was a on-site mine surveyor, both open pit, underground, and of various commodities. Also did stints as a mining engineer and have a quarry manager's ticket as well. So once again, thank you for joining us. We'll get into the best parts. So where does Studio Survey fit in our suite of products? We've come into the planning set, which we can see here. We have other products like Data Blast and Studio OP and Studio UG, our Mindscape for our coal friends, Auto and Aegis and Amine. We also have our geology suite of products and our exploration suite. So as you can see, they're quite extensive for the mine operations side of things. Also, we have our production, laboratories and sustainability suite of products. So this really highlights that Datamine can provide a solution from right the way from exploration drill holes and planning all the way through to rehabilitation and those sorts of things, even maintaining medical records and those sorts of things with QMed and all of your reporting standards through something like Centric, and even data management with MineTrust. So a few new key features that have come out of this release. We have increased our drive compliance reporting, our plan compliance reporting. So this is the survey actual versus the scheduled surface, which is now being able to be constrained by design surface. So you can see if the mining operators have actually gone past the design without it flagging as an overachievement ahead of schedule. The big one that we're probably going to talk a lot more about in this session is our end of month evaluations. So before this release, we're just producing monthly reports, both in compliance and extraction volumes. So there wasn't any real tons and grade that was done automatically. So that's the one that we're going to be focusing a bit more on in this session. We've introduced a memo register or a work plan register, and this will automatically be generated with date filters and mining area filters for users in the underground space. This allows for regulatory compliance in most regions, so you can have a detailed register of all of your survey work instructions that have been issued throughout the mine. We've introduced a drive outline function from our point cloud wireframes. So if you're in an operation that is primarily using LiDAR scanners for capturing the development and production and that sort of thing, producing outlines for regulatory plans and things like that. We've generated a tool that'll make those for us. We've done some improvements to our reporting throughout the whole suite, both open pit and underground. Like I said before, we have photogrammetry, and there's been a few updates in the photogrammetry space with speed improvements, multi-atlas, different camera types, those sorts of things. And like always, there's been a lot of core improvements that come through not only in Studio Survey, but all of our other studio products that operate on the same platform. So for those who don't know too much about Studio Survey and where it sort of fits into the cycle of data transfer and acquisition and that sort of thing, has pretty much a flowchart of where we sit. That orange bubble there is the Studio Survey platform or the product. So we take inputs from drones into our Pix Pro module that produces a wireframe textured mesh. Also directly from survey instruments. At the moment, we have direct integration with the Leica format files, so the DBX and those sorts of things. The release that is coming out in the next month or so will have the Trimble instruments added for those using Trimble instruments. Then from there, we also receive data from Studio UG, Studio OP, Studio RM, and other products in the DataMine suite, and also external data providers for your other mine planning solutions and geology solutions. From there, we get our textured mesh or wireframes or strings. They get stored into the Studio Survey database. Excuse me. And from there, the database stores all of our different data types in a structured manner. So the end user isn't actually managing that whole storage. So it's consistent, it's date stamped, it has different attributes associated to it, who put it into the database to begin with, and also how it's been modified and when, that sort of thing. So from there, because it's in a structured format, the Studio Survey reporting tools that we have built into the product are dedicated to the survey reports that are done on a regular basis. Now, because they understand the data structure, they can automatically pull in the data that you're looking for related to that report. It makes reporting a lot simpler, a lot smoother, and also a lot easier. So you're going to be getting consistent results, whether it's your junior surveyor or survey technician or a senior surveyor, or even a geologist or an engineer that's using it for reporting purposes. They're going to get the same report as anybody else. So that survey reporting produces our underground reports and our surface reports. And then from there, those reports not only produce tables and plots, but they also produce 3D objects. So they can get fed back into Studio UG, Studio OP for things like depletion and that sort of thing. So that really completes the mining data cycle. So, like I was saying, we have a lot of fast and reliable reporting at our fingertips and to use on a regular basis. Most of this has been directed at end of month reporting. However, that is not always the limiting factor. You can be reporting quarterlies, you can be reporting on a weekly basis, a daily basis if you really wanted to. It just depends on when your data acquisition is conducted. So we have compliance reports for both underground and open pit. Extraction reports, we have a blast volume report, which then is stored in the database, so you can get a blasting summary, which is also listed there. That'll calculate your broken stocks and those sorts of things. Your stockpile volumes, and then we have our underground development reporting. So that is your typical sort of end of month report as far as advancement of headings is concerned. And then that directly feeds into our underground drive compliance report. So it'll take each one of those advancements and then create a cut by cut analysis of overbreak and underbreak based on that development for that reporting period. We also have stope reporting. So once again, it'll give you your overbreak, underbreak, and those sorts of things. Stope summaries, so you can filter by mining area, development levels, all of that sort of thing, and get a summary of the total amount of stoping through that period. And then we have our survey memos or work instructions that are issued out. And there's a few examples of the plots that it produces for each individual report there. Now, the main thing that we're going to talk about is the evaluation that's been added to each one of those reports that produces a volume. So now, just with a simple tick box, we can define a block model and a legend, and then we can get a tons and grade on each one of those reports. So with the exception of your stockpile report, anything that produces a volume, you can get a tons and grade for. So if you have a drive compliance, you'll be able to get a tons and grade for your overbreak portions, your underbreak portions. Same with your stope report. So this really highlights areas where you can make improvements. Also allows engineers and planners to figure out if they're going to do remedial work to go in and get the ore that's left behind, or they can calculate out their dilution a lot better than having to go through it manually as a secondary process. So it really streamlines the whole reconciliation process along that sort of thing. And what we're going to do now is we'll just have a quick look at the actual product itself and go through a few of the reporting that we have. So this is basically what we get when you open up Studio Survey. We have all of the home ribbons with pretty much our left to right workflow as we go along. We have our field data inputs, and then all the way through to our database browsing and adding to data. So from here, we can go through our imports, through our survey instruments, our photogrammetry module, so we can get our drone photos, process them, and generate our textured wireframes in .dm format, and that saves you a lot of time also. Then we have our editing, pretty stock standard along this Studio suite, but where we sit apart from others is our reporting. So we have our pit actual. So if you want to calculate your month by month extraction volumes, you can go through there, assign your pit surfaces, and then it'll produce a bench by bench volume extraction for that pit that you're inquiring. We have our stockpile reporting. and also our compliance, both to design as a holistic overall achievement against the design pitch shell. And we also have our plan compliance, which will take the scheduled face surfaces from Studio OP and then compare them to the survey actual pitch shell, which will give you a planned and mined, so that's your on target, your planned not mined, and then also your mined not planned, which is your overachievement, and then also splits it out into the category of where it's gone past design, so you can highlight those areas as well. Then we have our blast volume calculator as well. Then we have our development reporting. So once again, we've got all of our filters up here. We can go through and define the mine or the decline that we're working in, the mining area, and go down to our level. And from there, we can then extract all of this data here. So if I go along through here and change the level, these will all update with the current relevant files for that level. And then we have our drive compliance, which is set up exactly the same. So it's gone through, it's picked up the development report that was last populated, the design solids that relate to that, the design strings, and then the drives that are available to do a compliance against on that level. From there, we can put in some filtering options. Like I was saying, we have the ability to select our block model now. This particular example was started with a gold block model in mind, but it's not restricted to any sort of commodity. You can, whatever's in your block model will come through in the evaluation report. And that all of these reports then get stored into our database. So we can come back to the home ribbon and have a quick look in the example. We can just go browse our database. We can filter down by mining area, whether we're looking for open pit, underground, those sorts of things. And for this example, we can filter down to our Montana, South Lode, and level 267. And we can go and get our drive compliance, development report, a survey memo, anything like that. So we can have a look at a drive compliance. Then you also have the 3D shapes if you want to get the actual results from that report, the plots that were created, and also the PDFs. So from there, we have also some date ranges if we want to look for a report that's been maintained in a certain date, or we can just go latest. And then that gives us the option to view our plots. So this example here, we have our design in blue and our survey actual in the red and the green. So our red is the overbreak, and the green is what has been done on design or is inside the design. And as you can see, we have a design volume, the development, our overbreak, our underbreak, and our variance. So it's all through there. Then we have each cut going through all the way through, and this particular example had 2 drives that we calculated as part of the compliance report. It's given us a overall indicated design volume, a length of development, our cut length or our section interval, and then given us our overbreak, underbreak, and a calculated difference. So with all of your surveyor details, the date it was published, the scale, all of those sorts of things, all of this is automatically produced as part of the compliance to design report. Now, if we just close that one down, we can also have a look at the evaluation report. So this gives us our cut section for one of the drives, and it then gives you your tons and grade for each cut that was taken. So this one in particular is the 267 Ore Drive South, and each cut has a planned tonnage and a planned grade. So you can see through there, this comes into the 267 Exploration Drive South. So that was the first drive, and then comes down into the second. So this whole report is all put together automatically as part of the reporting process, and that saves a lot of time. It's not up to somebody else to then go along and produce this evaluation report from the results of our reporting. It's all done at the same time. It doesn't take the operator or the user any longer. It's just a matter of ticking that box that allows for the block model to be interrogated, and then spits out the results. Now, this can be added to any one of our other reports that produces a volume. So the same thing for your end of month pit actual. We have the ability to use a block model, and then that block model can be added to those volume outputs. Same thing with our stope reporting. You can get your block model added. Also our blast volume calculator, so you can add your blast block model on there for reporting and get your tons and grade for a particular blast that you've calculated. Now, with an exception to the development report and the blast volume report, all of the other ones along here can be batched. So we can add them to our batch list, and that will just queue the calculations up, and we can put in, say, 5 pits, 3 or 4 ROMs, and then even do drive compliance in the same batching process and just let it run. And that frees up the user to go out and, gather more survey data, do something else other than sit there and babysit and watch the reports come in. So those reports would then filter into this list, and we'd be able to run them as a single operation rather than, waiting for each individual report to be finished before starting the next one. So that's proven to be quite valuable for people reporting large data sets. They can gather all of their drain data, everything like that for their pit shells, set the reports up in the evening and let it run overnight, and then in the morning they've got all of their reports sorted out, ready to go, with PDFs of the plots, tables, everything like that has all been automatically produced for you. Same with the stoping, we can add that to batch. So if you're doing reconciliation on multiple stopes on multiple levels, you don't have to actually wait for each one of those to be recorded. You can just add it to the batch, and then your reconciliation is done at the end as each one's produced. So that pretty much concludes from what we had for today. If you have any questions, support, anything like that, there's contacts on the screen now.